and the spirit of Ultimate Warrior will run forever!
Kyle here, and it is Saturday, and you know what that means. It's time for all the toy news, action figure news of the week that interested me, that hopefully interests you, in a very wrestling heavy week this week, with a few ancillary things to talk about as well. But before we get into all that toy news this week, we always got to do a little bit of housekeeping. And of course, this week's video sponsored by Jay'sToysAndGames.com. Use discount code Kyle, save yourself 15%. Got to get a deal out there, and we've talked about it a lot with all these different toy companies and retailers taking price increases. You got to get a deal more than ever before. And Jay's Toys and Games, I tell you what, that 15% off is a sleeper. Thanks to Jay's for sponsoring this channel, of course. And if you want to sponsor the channel, reach out to TheKylePetersonShow at gmail.com and we'll figure it out. So there you go. Perfect opportunity out there for sponsorships. Also on my podcast as well. More on that later, of course. But I guess speaking of the podcast, another episode in the podcast done this week here, of course, episode 7. Episode 8 available to Patreon and YouTube channel memberships right now. Check out the podcast, me and my wife, all kinds of stuff. There is some action figure stuff this coming Tuesday, or the episode that is up on Patreon channel memberships right now. We do a deep dive into street dates this week as we dive into some different topics that we talk about and touch on in the toy news, do a little deeper dive in the podcast. So we talk about street dates, the reasons for them, historically what they've meant, and the reasons for getting denied at the register at Target. We break all that down in the podcast. On top of some new foods we try this week, the album of the week, the figure of the week, a new segment called Story Time with Kyle that you might find interesting. Just talked about my run-in with cannibalism once upon a time, and it's not for the faint of heart, of course. But check out The Kyle Peterson Show, available wherever you find your audio podcast. Video cast, of course, available on YouTube. And if you guys do rate and review the podcast, give it the old 5 stars, and you send an email to me at TheKylePetersonShow at gmail.com showing proof of that review, you can be entered to win a copy of my book, of course, the brand new book, The Complete Guide to the ECW Original San Francisco Toy Makers by yours truly. Available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or from me if you want an autographed edition, softcover, hardcover edition available. Will come with a Kyle Peterson Show sticker as well as a bookmark. Appreciate all the support on the book, of course. And then, of course, we're in the month of May for Patreon, and we are giving away 2 things to Patreon members this month. A softcover edition of my book I can autograph if you want to. That is one of the giveaways. And then the second giveaway, Cody and Dusty Rhodes, the Mattel Creations Superstar exclusive. This is the other giveaway over there on the Patreon. So giveaways on the podcast, giveaways on the YouTube channel. It's just a month of giveaways is what it is. So a lot of stuff going on right there between the podcast, the book, and everything in between here. But now it's time to dive into the toy news this week and what is going on in the toys. And I guess the big thing we'll lead with once again is the tariffs, Todd McFarlane. Oh, Todd McFarlane calls them tariffs. I call them tariffs like a normal person, but he calls them tariffs. And you do a little sign language with your toes over there, which is really hard to understand. You think sign language is hard trying to do somebody with their hands? Try interpreting Todd and his toes over there. So wild times with tariffs this week, as it looks like there is now a 90-day pause where the tariffs to China went from 145% down to, 30% right now. So going to be interested to see where that goes. Will any of these retailers drop pricing down? The tariffs have went up. They went way up in price. Now that they've went down, will they go down? That's the true measurement that we need to be concerned with at this point in time. So going to be very interesting in the entertainment earth, the big bad toy stores. Now we saw Hasbro this week that went back to their normal pre-order price. So it looks like they're going to eat that 30% tariff. Now, it's up to each manufacturer, each toy company out there, each retailer to choose their pricing, but you got to be good in the market. And of course, you don't go up. Let's say Big Bad Toy Store, they don't drop prices, but Entertainment Earth goes up in price. What happens? What shakes out? You're going to lose some customers between all this. So it'll be very messy for a while. And I can see a lot of companies sitting in the weeds saying, well, it's only for 90 days. I'm going to keep pricing as it is right now. We'll see what happens 90 days from now. But as I've said since the get-go on this, follow the money. I figured by Sometime at the end of June, I think everything would be figured out, and I guess we're getting closer to that to figure out what is the new normal going forward. Obviously, for us looking at toys, it would be great if toys could go back to zero tariffs. I don't know, but it could be one of those things where, toys goes up in tariffs, but other things that we use every single day comes down in tariffs, and it all evens out a little bit. But how's it going to even out if you're somebody like me that was paying zero tariff surcharge on anything? And I buy a lot of toys where the ancillary person buys maybe a couple of toys a year. It gets very convoluted. It gets very deep. But at the end of the day, I think we're all hoping as toy collectors, it doesn't affect our wallets too much. I think that's the end of the day, because we all got to get a deal one way or the other. We know how that goes. But we'll have to stay tuned to the tariffs, of course, and see what happens, I guess, over the next 90 days of negotiations and things. But this week, we did get a bit of a win. It went from 145 down to 30. I call that a win. I know people are saying, well, it was zero before. Yes, it was at one time, but it was also 145 before. So now we're at 30. We're getting closer to where we want to be, that's for sure. So we'll see. We'll stay tuned to it in the future, of course. But speaking of tariffs, speaking of our favorite action figure company, probably, I think we can all agree on this. Sorry, Todd, no offense over there. But it's time for the Power Town update.
Are you ready for pain? Are you ready for suffering?
And I guess we're truly ready for pain with Power Town, of course. I've been asking, and I asked last week, did anybody get any responses from their emails to Power Town? As far as I've heard, and the feedback I've got, still nobody has been answered. Even though in that press release, they said they would be better at communication with the fan base. But the one big thing, the big smoking gun I see, how do you not update your website? 3.5, still the last update. They sent out the press release. Why wouldn't they at least update the website? Maybe we're clasping at straws, whatever you want to call it. But man, I just don't know what's going on with this company. And now they did say, hey, when the tariffs get a little bit better, we're going to ship all that stuff out. Well, now we're down to 30%. Is that better enough? My gut tells me they're going to say, no, not until it gets down to zero tariffs is when it's going to get better. Going to be interested to see where Power Town goes from here. I'm not holding my breath on anything at this point, and honestly, I haven't for the last year plus. We've been talking about these issues for the last 2 years, but going to be interested to see. They said, hey, we're envisioning early summer. Man, we're about there. We're about a month away from the start of summer, officially, I guess, and it would take them about probably a month on the boat and all that dock stuff. So right now, are they making decisions? My guess is no, they're not changing anything, but we'll see. Maybe they'll surprise us, and I think we're all here for a surprise or two. I love a good surprise, of course. So that's the Power Town update. Really no update. But Ringside Collectibles has an update. Using discount code Kyle, save 10% more, but they do have a Memorial Day sale. I know a lot of people wait for the Ringside sales, get some deals out there, save an extra 10% with Kyle. Looks like they got the new Best of Ultimate Edition shipping with Roman and Razor Ramon. Also shipping the Blacklight Jeff Hardy. So those will be some interesting figures. Feels like we haven't had a lot of figures via Ringside for a while, and I think we're going to see a few things get through here in the next month or so, and then I think we're going to see a big delay. I think we're going to see a gap from a lot of these toy manufacturers, the Mattels, the Jazzwares. We're not going to get anything for a while, so I think there's going to be a dead time in the summer. I was looking at my stuff. We talked about this a little bit last week in Weekly Purchases. Obviously the channels I have, 2 YouTube channels, pretty reliant on new figures coming through. But I was looking, I got a lot of stuff I have not unboxed, I have not got to. Maybe not going to be as exciting to some people as maybe it's some older stuff, but I'm looking right here. I got 4 NECA Planet of the Apes figures to unbox. I forgot all about that huge Battletoad. I got to unbox that. Going back to some of the wrecking big rig figure and playset truck, I guess we'll call it. I got to unbox that. There's some UFC figures from back in the day I need to get around to. I have, for Patreon members, over a year plus of Jakks Classic Superstars videos that have been on Patreon for 2 years. We did one this week with Strike Force. I filmed that over 2 years ago, and it's finally getting to traditional YouTube right now. So you can kind of tell by the hair length, I think, on a lot of that kind of stuff. But I got a lot of stuff to dive into. I got some Mezco G.I. Joe to get to. I got a lot of old McFarlane stuff to get to. I got about 70 Mythic Cosmic Legions to unbox. I got a few other things throughout. So I guess we'll get some new stuff, but we'll dive in, and I'll finally be getting around to some of these ones I've been doing long game unboxings for. So we'll see what happens there in the future. But I think once this all settles out, I don't think anything's ever going to be the same again in the action figure world. And that's a video in itself, of course. But we'll see what happens right there. But back to the toy news now. Grapplers and Gimmicks not messing around. Old Mitch over there, not messing around this week, showing off a ton of stuff in an Instagram live stream. Did show us Gangrel and Ahmed Johnson Regium figures. Regium? Tomato, Todd? I don't know. But he did show those off. Obviously looking pretty good. More elite style. Still a little bit bigger than an Ultimate Elite, it looks like, when they compared it to Brock Lesnar. But I think a lot of us are excited for Ahmed Johnson. A lot of us are excited for Gangrel as well. So can't wait to see those. We also saw Dean Douglas, the first ever Dean Douglas figure. That'll be kind of cool to see there from them in the retro style figures. We also saw Sal Sincere. It looks like he's getting a figure. That's a pretty deep cut. He was the 90s equivalent of like an Iron Mike Sharp. You knew his name. You knew he'd put up a fight, but wouldn't always win. We got him coming to the market with the retro. We got Tatanka. What is that? 1992 edition Tatanka. We got that one coming there. Quang the Ninja. Watch out for the Ninja. Of course, we know how that goes. Sergeant Slaughter looking pretty good. We've seen some of the Sergeant Slaughters from Mitch coming out here over the next year or so. He's got a few different varieties. But the camo on this one looks really cool. Very detailed, like the looks of that. We did see the Godwins ×2. We're getting a rerun of the Godwins. Of course, we got the Regium editions coming as well. But we got the Godwins ×2. One coming with Uncle Cletus, one coming with Hillbilly Jim, kind of the heel and face versions, I guess we'll call them there. And we did see Uncle Cletus as well. So very cool. I'm very excited for a 3-pack of retros. I think that is fun. That seems like a fun thing to do. I can't wait to see how that ends up looking. But a lot of stuff coming our way from Grapplers and Gimmicks. Turning and burning. We'll be interested to see with all the tariffs and everything else if that slows down a little bit. Because whether you like him or not, man, Mitch is hustling. They call him the Hustle Man. He's putting up a lot of product. He's got a lot of stuff coming. And if he can get all that stuff over here, while a lot of these companies aren't getting stuff over, choosing not to ship some of that stuff, whatever the reason may be, he could really slip in and get some extra sales because people are wanting to buy something. They'll pick up some of that. And I've heard, some of the Hasbros, Mattels, and a lot of these other companies, they are using Canada because you think about it, the tariffs aren't as bad over there in Canada as they are in America. I guess I don't know what they are now that they're 30% in the US once again. But some of these companies are sending stuff instead of to the United States, they're sending it to Canada, and then it'll go from Canada to America to save a little bit of that tariff money. But once again, that was before all the news broke this week here. So I still think we'll see some stuff, and they're going to backdoor it in. And everybody loves the backdoor is what I've been told. They're going to backdoor it in from Canada. So it'll be interesting to see how this all shakes down this summer. I guess we'll wait and see as usual. And we'll wait and see. FTC Figure Toy Company this week could break in the internet a little bit, you'd say. That tells you how maybe slow the news was this week. But Figures Toy Company comes out with crowd member figures. Now, they've had referees in the past, and we unboxed the male and female referee. Check those out. And they've promised for a long time that that is their new model. Instead of the hybrid Ruthless Aggression, Deluxe Aggression figures they've released in the past, they're going to go to this more elite style articulation. Now, we saw the referees, as I mentioned. Now we're seeing all these audience members for the crowd. But where's the wrestlers? Have they just got rid of that idea? They're not going to do wrestlers anymore. They're just going to do this. I mean, it does have a niche in the marketplace, of course. Some of the accessories and some of these fan members. I think this is a great idea in theory. However, for most audience members, I don't know if you need all that articulation because they're just going to stand there in the audience. And you're looking at $20 plus a piece. And then you got a box set of 4 for like $80. They're pretty expensive for just to have people in the crowd. Now, if you want to use them for something else, you can. Obviously, these would go great with your superhero figures. You can mix them in different toy lines if you need to, but very expensive. And I think at the end of the day, if you want to have a crowd member, you're probably better off getting like a basic or a championship showdown figure, something. They're a little bit cheaper. You can always go to Ringside and get some of those $2.99, $3.99 figures. Use those for people in the crowd. It'll save your wallet a lot more, but this is a pretty neat idea. I'm not sold on the figures, a little too cartoony to me. I don't feel like they really would work very well, but I'm not opposed to picking up maybe one of these just to check out and see what's going on with them. But an interesting concept, and I applaud FTC for doing something different than everybody else. So, of course, constant learning, constant improvement, but you got to do some radical change every once in a while if you want to move the business forward. And I think that's what they're doing here. So it is good in theory. It's just going to be interesting to see the execution when things are said and done. And if people jump in and if this is something they want in their collection. But check them out over at Figures Toy Company if that is your thing. We also saw late last week, Title Run Toys. Looks like we're going to get a 2-pack of the Jumping Bomb Angels. Now, it's a name I've heard forever. I couldn't tell you one Jumping Bomb Angels match. I think they were involved in a Survivor Series once upon a time. I think Jimmy Hart managed them, didn't he, if I'm not mistaken? But that's a deep cut for the retro line. It'll be interesting to see how those end up doing. Have to imagine small production run on those, as that is an extremely deep cut, as we do know. We also saw from Golden Era of Wrestling, they announced last week Paul Ellering. Looks like this week they got Earl Hebner, baby Earl Hebner coming to the line. Of course, you got to have a referee to call it down the middle like a young Fonzie, as we do know. But we got Earl Hebner coming into the line. Somebody posted, I think they did, maybe it was a joke, maybe not, but they were working on maybe Dave Hebner too to get a 2-pack there. Well, they are twins, so maybe they'll just call either one the same thing. I don't know. We don't need 2 Hebners, so I think it was more of a joke, but they are twins at the end of the day. So you could buy 2 and say, hey, here's Earl and Dave. I guess you could do that. But Golden Era of Wrestling always confused me a little bit because there's a lot of images out there of prototype images of different figures. And I'm like, wait, are they trying to come out with Hulk Hogan? Are they coming out with this? It does confuse the marketplace personally there because you see a lot of figures in their style by the same artist. And you're like, wait, are these coming? Or is Earl Hebner coming? Or are we getting this Mr. Perfect? What are we doing? So I always do get a little confused on some of that. And I'm sure others do as well. But Earl Hebner coming to that line. One came out of left field on Friday afternoon from Latuni, is Big Rubber Guy style, LJN style, Latuni style, I guess, the Big Rubber Guy figures, the LJN inspired figures, we'll call them. How about that? We do got Hawk and Barbarian coming in the future, but coming up first with pre-order July 1st, we've got Warlord and we've got Animal from that old school weightlifting bench press challenge. Very interesting to see this one. You got the full Zubaz going on. You're going to come with the weights, of course, and a removable belt. So very cool, very deep cut once again. But man, I'm here for this. I love stuff like this. I love my Big Rubber Guy style figures of the LJN or, of course, the Major Pods Big Rubber Guys and the Latuni versions have held up very well from the ones we've unboxed here on the channel. So definitely going to be worth a peek for me. We'll see what happens come July 1st. When those do go up for pre-order, but they do look pretty good, all things considered. I'm a sucker for the Road Warriors. I'm a sucker for Zubaz. You throw in Barbarian and Warlord, you got me eating out of the palm of your hand, I think, a little bit. And maybe even my dad, a Warlord guy. You guys know my dad, favorite wrestler of all time, the Warlord. Maybe we got to get those for him too. So we'll see what ends up happening there. But I do like those. They do look different enough. It'll be interesting to see how those sell as well. But now, moving away from wrestling, that's it for the wrestling news, and that's basically the majority of the news this week. A few other little things. Our friends over there at Mondo this week, of course, pre-order up for Nightcrawler from the X-Men animated series. I was all in, and then, things got so expensive. Stuff started coming so fast. Had to cut some things out. X-Men 97 Mondo, unfortunately, one of the lines I had to cut. I'm still holding tight with the He-Man figures, as you guys do know, and probably Thundercats Mumra, which just got announced this week. Sounds like next week pre-order from Mumra, so get your wallets ready. Shop Pay app used to be my favorite thing. Good friend of the channel, Jeff George, caved me to the secret there. That starting, I think it was March 1st, you used to be able to do Shop Pay, and it always helped the payments, especially in these Mondo things. You felt better about yourself breaking the payments into 3 different things. Unfortunately, that Shop Pay thing, they had to start reporting that to your credit company. So what it looks like you're doing when you do Shop Pay is you're opening up a new credit card and then canceling it once it's paid, and then you do it another time, it's opening up. So it's really hurting your credit scores in the grand scheme of things. Very unfortunate because it was a fun thing to do. I like to pay from Shop Pay. It made me feel better about myself, maybe you as well. But it looks like that's not the way to go unless you really need to go that way. So it looks like we're going to be back, or at least I'm personally going to be back to playing Mondo in full, just getting it done. But man, that hurts when you have to pay that Mondo price all at once, especially on a Mumra, who's going to be a big deluxe figure. But look into Shop Pay and see if that is for you still. I'm still going to use it for things because you get some of that shop cash, but still at the end of the day, you don't want to hurt your credit score on this kind of little piddly stuff at the end of the day. So to each their own, of course, on that. But 2 Mondo items coming in very, very hot. And then we did get something from NECA. Of course, it is the 100th anniversary of the Phantom of the Opera this year. And they did finally announce, and I think we saw this, was it San Diego Comic-Con last year? Or maybe it was New York Toy Fair or New York Comic-Con. I can't remember. What is time? What is fairs? What is Comic-Cons? I'm not exactly sure. But speaking of Comic-Cons, Des Moines Comic-Con, I'm going to be there on May 31st. I'll be a part of an action figure panel. So if you're in the area, come on out there, hang out at the Des Moines Comic-Con. Look into it a little bit more if that is your thing as well. But we did see Phantom of the Opera, Mask of the Red Death edition. Very, very cool. Now, I'll be the first to say Phantom of the Opera does not hold up very well for me. To each their own. You like what you like, you don't what you don't. You know how that goes. But I did recently watch it again. It's still it's just too old for me, if that's a thing. But I do enjoy the figures. I do really like the looks of this figure. We'll be picking this one up. part of the 100th anniversary celebration of the Phantom of the Opera, of course. So looking very good right there. We also saw this week a little bit of Marvel Legends news finally. It's been pretty quiet for a while. Dwight, of course, one of the designers over there, he did show a picture of the new upcoming Sentinel that's coming out this fall. Going to be very interested to see what happens with that. I wouldn't be shocked if there's a delay on those, if there is the tariff situation still. I guess we'll wait and see what happens there. But he did show off some in-hand images. I guess we'll assume it's the prototype. Looking very, very good. I'm a Sentinels guy through and through, so I'm very excited for this one. I think I ordered 2 of these, if I'm not mistaken. We'll see what happens when that does come, but very excited for some Sentinels. We also saw Shayna the She-Devil this week from Marvel Legends. Not sure what wave she's going to, but we did see the digital render. Always nice to see these digital renders, of course. So that'll be coming to a future wave. I wouldn't be shocked if it's not a fan channel exclusive, but we'll see what ends up happening there. And then last, but certainly not least this week, Todd McFarlane, nothing from the couch. Nothing. You took vacation this week? Yeah, it looks like it. He's been sitting here, no shirt, no shoes, just boxer briefs, just chilling on the couch all week. You didn't even move. You were just so exhausted from everything that's going on in the world, you just needed a week to decompress. I get it, man. I need one of those myself. I never get any time off. Always turning and burning, always working, always thinking 24/7. That's me, and that's Todd. Usually we're on the same wavelength, but you actually took a week off, so I guess I'm ahead of you. I haven't had a full week's vacation in 15 years. Yes, 15 years since I've had 5 days off in a row. It's the life I live, though. It's the life I live. It's the life I choose. But Todd, you can get a week off a little easier than me, maybe. I mean, who's going to tell you no? If Todd's on vacation, nobody's going to bother you. Kyle goes on vacation, they're still going to bother me. That's just the way things shake out there. But nothing from Todd this week. Nothing of interest. I mean, I saw you do some kind of like Doom or Quake or something. I don't know anything about that, so I'm not covering it here. So nothing from Todd this week. We'll see if next week he comes back with a fire full of stuff. We'll see what happens. But that is it for the toy news. Not a whole lot going on outside of wrestling this week, but what are you interested in? Anything you're excited for? Anything you're picking up? Let me know in the comments down below. You made it this far. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, check out the YouTube channel memberships, Patreon if you want to support the channel. And over there right now, you can get the latest edition of my brand new podcast, The Kyle Peterson Show, episode 8 up there for early subscribers. Of course, Tuesday, available everywhere. Audio podcasts are found, video cast on YouTube as well. An all-timer coming this week, and really they're all all-timers every single week. I'm biased, what can I say? But join my wife, Angie, and I over there. You can find all about Angie's undergarments or lack of undergarments over there. She gives the dirty secret of how she rolls every single day, and it rolls pretty good, let me tell you. But check out the podcast. You don't want to miss an episode. If you missed any, start back at number 1. Work your way to episode 8. You're still early in there. You can get in it. It's a good hour or so every single week, of course. But once again, I'm biased. You know how it goes. Check out my book, available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or from me. It is The Complete Guide to the ECW Original San Francisco Toy Makers, with, of course, foreword by Brian Myers. Check it out if you haven't picked up your copy yet. Sir Paul64 on the X, _Kyle_Peterson on Threads, Instagram, TikTok, and of course, TheKylePetersonShow at gmail.com. So for another week of toy news, you know what I'm doing? I'm rocking and rolling, strutting and strolling my way into another weekend.
Well, are we gonna dance or are we gonna play?